Thank you for tuning into the Natty News Daily podcast. This episode is brought to you in part by our sponsor, Core Nutritionals. You can check out corenutritionals.com for all your supplement needs and use code Natty News Daily at checkout to save 20%. Enjoy the episode.
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Natty News Daily podcast. We've got a close friend of ours, Mr. Phil DeGuzman, Mr. Lifts for Pizza on Instagram. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, Leroy. Thanks for doing much better now that couple of weeks into my off season. But
for sure.
yeah, no, appreciate you guys having me on. You guys are the go-to for natural bodybuilding nowadays. So
you're damn right.
Yeah, facts.
Oh yeah. So this is the place to be. So appreciate it.
No, appreciate you coming on, man. Also, quick plug to the T-shirt he's wearing because we just got restocked. Dan just got a shipment in today, actually, as of recording this. So December 19th, but this will be long after that. So maybe we're sold out by now. Maybe future us doesn't have T-shirts, but present us has stock right now. So go get one. But anyways, let's just dive in, man. So your season was a long one. Had its ups and downs. It's good, it's bad, it's ugly. So let's back up to the first show. When was that? How long had you been prepping? Let's start right from the beginning.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm starting to be known for long preps. So not sure that's a good thing, but yeah. I guess you guys are well familiar with my hashtag forever prep back in 2020. So
yeah.
This one's a little shorter, but it was still. I think I looked at it. It was 41 weeks and 4 days total from start of prep to Worlds. So prep started February 1st of this year. I had some plans in mind of what I wanted to accomplish. So wanted to give myself as much time to do those things. And really the main thing was to compete at WNBF Worlds. Just as an amateur, really, see if I can qualify for that. I mean, we'll get into that. So
would you say like, this is something I was actually talking to my wife about with like setting goals for each season? Would you say like, okay, 2023 prep, I want to compete at Worlds as an amateur? Was that like kind of like the list of things to do, or did you have other things you wanted to check off this year?
To be honest, that was the main one.
Sweet. Yeah. I think that's huge because a lot of people will set these like massively lofty goals that, like, not saying that it's setting yourself up for failure, but there's also like some hint of realism that you need to keep. And I think for you, just saying like baseline, I just want to compete at Worlds. Like you're for sure going to be able to do that. At what capacity? That's obviously very open-ended. So I just want to touch on that because I think a lot of people almost set themselves up for failure before prep even starts because they're like, I'm turning pro this year, no questions asked. I'm winning every show I'm doing, no questions asked. And like, that doesn't always happen, right? It probably happens a lot less than people think, right? Because there's no shortage of talent out there. So
exactly.
Yeah, I respect you for
unless
that.
You're Leroy.
I was about to say the same thing. Unless you're Leroy, pretty sure he was the guy who won every show the last time he competed.
Yeah. So Phil, it's funny. These guys don't know. So Phil and I actually had a pretty extensive conversation. Like last week on my way home from work on the phone, and that was one of the topics we talked about. Was like, you with social media, you lose this this idea of like the blue collar bodybuilder, right? Which is kind of what we like termed it on the call, right? Like
that's so true.
Not to put like Phil in that class, but I mean, we kind of both agreed, like, you're gonna turn pro, but you may not win a pro show ever, and you just gotta almost be like realistic with that. Where social media, it's like you see your Benjamin, you see your Dirk, you see Leroy, all these people. It's just like, damn, but that's only a select few, really, when you look at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, everyone knows social media is like the highlight reel, right? And I guess I am, I'm of the, I think I'm the oldest one on this call, right? I'm of the generation that I really didn't grow up with social media. So I just joined it just because I thought it was a cool place to document my journey when I first started. But I had to, going back to the original point, Leroy, I mean, I was I was trying to be as realistic as possible. I mean, that's just how I am, right? I could have easily said, "Now, already I got that one season under my belt. I'm turning pro this year. I'm gonna win it all, and I'm gonna be the lightweight world champion." But I know personally that's not gonna happen, and why set myself up for failure, right?
Yeah.
I could have also just went the route of, and this is obviously a goal of every bodybuilder, right? I just wanted to be better than last time. But I
Yeah.
think that's if you're in this thing, I mean, that's kind of like
It's almost like
doesn't
a
need to be said, right?
non-negotiable.
Exactly, right? You don't need to state that, right? Everybody wants to be better from one season to the next. So it's like, okay, realistically, am I good enough to place top three in an amateur class this year? I think so. Well, let's make that the goal and see, right? I mean, it's got to be somewhat difficult but achievable, I think, in my mind. So
Yep.
yeah, and James, yeah, like you said, there's a lot that went into that goes into my career as a bodybuilder and my lifestyle as a bodybuilder, um, which I guess we'll get into. But
Mhm.
yeah, this is something that I discussed with my coach, Brad Loomis from 3DMJ, before we started prep. We were thinking about shows and kind of what we wanted to accomplish this year. And again, this is only my second year, so even if I didn't qualify for Worlds or whatever, I mean, uh, I just wanted to get that experience. Wanted to again just improve on last time and then see where I stack up. But
Yep.
you got to be working towards something, right?
Totally.
So yeah, that was really the main goal. And in order to accomplish that, for I guess most people might know, but for those that don't, in the WNBF specifically, because it's WNBF Worlds we're talking about, you have to place top three, I think it is, in an amateur class that has five or more, and I guess if it's four or less, you have to win the class to
Yep.
qualify for Worlds. So I didn't know, you know how it is. You don't know who's going to show up to these things. You don't know how many people's going to be there. You don't know how stacked it's going to be. So it's like, all right, well, let me just give myself as many opportunities to
Yep.
to accomplish this goal of mine. Um, so first show, going back to your original question, first show I targeted was August. I think it was like August 26th, last weekend in August. It was actually an OCB show.
Yep.
Um, and that for me was, I guess, my, if you want to call it, my warm-up show, right? I knew I wasn't competing in the Orton. Well, I didn't think I was going to be competing in the Orton Cup because you do need to be an OCB pro for that. Um, so and I hadn't competed in 3 years, so it's like, all right, well, it was a local show. It was perfect for having friends and family come out. It was less than an hour away from where I live, so
Nice.
um, let me get in as dialed in as I can for that, see what I need to work on, and then the plan was to hit like three or four WNBF shows after that. And if I didn't qualify for Worlds after three or four shows, it's like, all right, well, it's not in the cards for me this year.
Yep.
But that was the overall plan. Hit the OCB show
Sure.
in August, see what I needed to work on, and then do a string of the INBF, WNBF shows, plus the Mr. America, which you guys are very familiar with because again, it's a pretty local show and it's a big one, and we'll definitely want to support that one as well. And so yeah, that in the back in January, February, that was my overall plan for this year
Okay.
in a nutshell.
Cool. Okay. So
And you competed in the 2020 Mr. America. Now you competed in the 2023. What was the difference between the two?
I mean, it was it's a big difference in the show itself because 2020 was that was the year of COVID, and
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know, I was just looking to compete in any show anywhere in America that was happening. And luckily, I held out just long enough to get in an OCB show and a PNBA show, and then the Mr. America because I did happen to win my PNBA pro card that year. Um, so yeah, I mean the venue is completely different. Just the show itself. I think 2020 was the first year that Mark had brought it back from its hiatus. So I personally had never heard of it before. I mean, I kind of just got into bodybuilding kind of right before 2020. But obviously, if you know the history of Mr. America, it is a huge show. It's been going on for decades now. But the show itself was it was much smaller. Um, there was only one bodybuilding class. I think there was 7 or 8 of us, and the past few years there's been what, a dozen or more bodybuilders each time. It just keeps
Yeah.
growing. Quality just keeps getting better of not only the competitors but the show itself, the way it's being run. It's got some great commentators now. We didn't have that back in 2020.
Bunch of studs, that's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really grown a lot over the past 3 years. I mean, competed in it in 21, and I watched it in 20. I competed in 2020 and watched it. What was that, last year? I think it was, and then competed in it this year. So it's every year it's getting bigger and
Yeah.
bigger and better, really.
Yeah, for sure. So OCB show, how did that go? First one.
That was I'll be honest. Personally, I was actually a bit nervous again. It was I guess that was my 4th show overall, and like I said, it's been 3 years, so definitely had some cobwebs and some nerves to shake off. But I like the way I came in. I mean, basically Brad and I were saying, let's just come in as dialed as we can. I know sometimes a warm-up show you're not at like your peak 100% best, and I don't think I was, but I would say I was 95% there.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, again, you never know who's going to show up to these shows. um, James loves to get into this in his segments, but to be honest, there are so many OCB shows. And again, I'm just gonna be honest with what my thinking going into this. So many OCB shows every weekend, every state, that sometimes the quality in some of these shows isn't the same as some of the other shows, right? I think that's
For sure.
kind of a fair
Yep.
statement, right? But you do get some good guys at a lot of these shows. But I'll be honest, when I got to this one, I was pleasantly surprised at the guys that I was going to be competing against. I mean, you know how it is when you're finally backstage and everyone's finally taking off their clothes and you start pumping up. It's like, oh wow, this is not that I was expecting to win that one, but I was like, okay, if I can place top 3 or whatever, I'll be in a good spot. But I think there was like 7 or 8 of us, and almost like everyone I saw was like, oh wow, this is gonna be a good one today.
Yeah.
And it was, man. We were up there. This happened, I think, at almost every show I was at this year, except for the Mr. America. But we were up there for at least 15 to 20 minutes, similar to that, your Ontario show. Because they worked us. I mean, I would say it was pretty. I would like to think that the judges had a pretty hard time, given the quality that was up there. I mean, I ended up placing 5th, which again I'm super happy with. I mean, the 4 guys ahead of me were credible athletes. A couple of them competed in an IMBF show recently. The guy that took 1st, I actually trained with at my gym, Power Build Gym here outside of Philadelphia. Great physique, great guy. But yeah, it was. I was pleasantly surprised at the quality at that show from top to bottom, at least for the bodybuilders.
Sweet. All right. So you got the warm up under your belt. Everything's going good.
Sure.
We got a 5th place. Then what?
It was a great start to the season, right? I made some tweaks to my posing, just playing around with it, just to see what it looked like. I think that did hurt me a bit that day, because now that I look back at the pictures, it's like, wow, that just didn't look good compared to the way I should have been posing.
Don't mess with your posing on show day.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I kind of threw that at Brad, pretty, just like a week before the show. I'm like, hey, how about I stick my glutes out instead of tucking them in? Maybe my legs will look better. Yeah, can't pull off the Jared Feather unless you're Jared Feather, I guess. But so yeah, I mean, I was like, all right, let me stick to the posing that I've been doing. So next one was the big one. I mean, I'll call it the big one, right? That was what was that? I guess it would have been 2 weeks later, was the WNBF Canada Ontario Naturals, hosted by
fantastic event.
There's a couple three guys that maybe the audience is familiar with. But yeah, your guys' show. I was looking forward to that one a lot. I mean, not only did I want to support you guys, that, to be honest, that's the main reason I signed up for it. I mean, I had to fly all the way to Toronto. Not that it's far; it was like a less than a 2-hour flight from me from Philadelphia. But you know how it is, just traveling for shows, and especially if you have to fly.
Yeah.
But you know, just knowing that you guys were behind it, knowing how much you know were investing and then putting into running a good show, I'm like, that's definitely what I want to do because I know it's going to be run well. I
Appreciate
know
that.
you guys have the athletes, you know, as a top priority, and you're going to do everything you can to give us the best experience. So there was no doubt that I was going to do that one once I found out that you guys were behind it.
Yep.
So that
Appreciate
was, yeah, no, of course. Appreciate you guys making it happen. So that was the second of, I had 4 shows that were each 2 weeks apart. So that was kind of a hectic period in my prep. But yeah, I think yours was September 9th, right?
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
that was 2 weeks later. So yeah, flew up to Toronto a couple days before, made the drive over to Belleville. And I was, you know, once that show started getting closer, and you guys were doing, which was pretty cool, you were kind of featuring athletes on the Instagram page. I'm like, oh,
Mind
man,
games at its finest.
yeah, I mean, you guys know how it is. I mean,
Oh, you
I
bet.
think
I knew
everyone's, yeah.
exactly what I was doing. I want people on their toes for this show.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone's always curious about, you know, who's going to be there. I got to find out who's competing. Are they going to send out a list with names so I can check out everyone on Instagram?
I'll do
Luckily
it for
you
you.
guys, yeah, exactly. Luckily you guys did most of the work there. So yeah, once I started seeing some of the names, I'm like, oh man, this is going
This
to
is
be
gonna
good
be a
one.
fight.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, not again, not that I was expecting it. I never expect any of these shows to be easy, and you know, I tried to actually once it came to the run of like INBF, WNBF shows I wanted to do, like I wanted to do like the good, you know, the ones where I knew that there would be good athletes going to, because
Yep.
I didn't want to just qualify. I didn't want to just qualify for worlds. I wanted to qualify for worlds in a legit
Earn it.
lineup, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. You always want to earn it. So yeah, once I started seeing everyone and just the number of athletes you were having, especially in bodybuilding, I was super excited. And then I started reaching out to some of the guys, and you know, I
Yep.
still talk to them now. So it was you know, as you guys have already talked about, it was a great show, great experience. You know, kind of cutting to the chase here, I ended up taking first in, ironically, the middleweight class, which
Big boy.
yeah, exactly. A whopping 153 pounds or 154 pounds, whatever I weighed in at that day.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, each class was you know, it was a competitive. You had 3 competitive classes there, right?
Yeah.
So regardless of where, I mean, you know, thankfully I wasn't in the lightweight, I guess, because rather face Adam in the overall. But
Yeah.
yeah, won the middleweights against you know, there was 6 or 7 other guys there.
Yep.
Went to the overall against Adam and Pablo, and to be honest, and I was telling James this because we all haven't actually spoken about it since then. I was, when I saw it was Adam, me, and Pablo, I was like, oh wow, I'm just, you know, I'm happy getting my 3rd place. Like I qualified for Worlds right then and there, right? That was my main goal. Like I had texted Brad after, right before the overall. I'm like, hey, I think I made it to an overall. I don't know what to do. I've never made it to an overall before.
What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, like, exactly. Can I have another Reese's? Like,
Damn right
so
you
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I was just happy to be there, and then to actually, you know, finish second, and then earn my pro card, dude. You guys like completely changed the trajectory of my season right then and there, because that was, yeah, that was something. I think that's a goal of everyone's, right? You want to earn your pro card. You want to be a pro bodybuilder, but I just did not think that that was in the cards for me. You know, this year. You know, you look at the guys in the pros, and you look at these pro physiques, and I don't know if this is how everyone feels, but I'm I'm very hard on myself. So it's like, oh man, I've got all this work that I need to do if I want to have a pro type physique. So the fact that you know, I guess you could say I was the second best bodybuilder out of what, 20 something bodybuilders that day.
Yeah. That's no joke.
Earn that pro card. I mean, it wasn't, again, it's not one of these small shows where you know, the winner gets a pro card out of 2 people or something like
Yep.
that, right? I mean, there was a lot of good bodybuilders there. Credit to every single one of those athletes. I mean, yeah, but I was speechless, and it's obviously sunk in now, but it took a long time for that to really sink in, and like I said, you guys changed the trajectory of my entire season, because now it's like, all right, well, I thought for like 5-10 minutes I was going to compete at Worlds as an amateur, and all of a sudden I win my pro card. It's like, well, I guess I'm competing at Worlds
Yeah.
as a pro, which is
Yeah.
just a completely different ball game.
That's
So yeah,
so sick.
that was obviously I'll never forget that show. I mean,
Yeah. That
glad
like for us too, like obviously we've known each other now for, years, right? Like same with the
Mhm.
three of us, like we've known each other for years. And obviously for you, man, like for you to come up to that show and not only compete in it, but then to turn pro, like that was for the three of us, we were like, damn, that's sick. Like good for Phil. Like that's awesome that he
Mhm.
come up and did this show. Someone that we're friends with that, was like, you know what? I'm gonna go up and throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And for you to turn pro at that was like a feel good moment for us too, because it was just, you form these relationships with people that just share the love for the sport, and to be able to build that platform and have you have that opportunity, like, I was cheering.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I heard you guys. I appreciate that. No, that was awesome. Yeah, that was
Cool.
definitely. If I'm gonna earn my pro card somewhere, I'm glad it was at that show.
Sweet. Awesome. Okay, so the plans change. WNBF
Yeah.
pro card secured.
Oh
What's
yeah.
next?
Uh, so like I said, I already had a few INBF shows in mind. The next one being another 2 weeks later, which was supposed to be I've been so used to calling it the Pro Universe now, but what is the amateur
The
show
amateur
called?
equivalent. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nancy's
yeah,
show there.
the Nancy Andrews show up in White Plains.
Mhm.
Um, that's bothering me. I can't remember the name, but yeah, I emailed
Natural Mania.
Nancy. Natural Mania,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, I emailed Nancy because I had already signed up and registered for that one. I sent the email, said, "Hey, I earned my pro card. Can I jump up to the Pro Universe?" And yeah, that that was an eye-opening experience. I mean, again, like I said, I competed at the 2020 Mr. America as a pro, but again, that year was a COVID year, and then kind of shows were smaller, and it was just that one show. Um, but this one, it's the Pro Universe, right? I mean, Berta won it. What was that last year?
Last
And
year.
Hmm.
yeah, so I didn't know who was going to be there, but you just know it's going to be. You just know it's going to be a good show. I mean, there's not a lot of WNBF pro shows that pros can compete in, and I find out that Malcolm, Strength School and Training, whatever his name is on Instagram,
Cooper.
um,
Yeah.
Malcolm Cooper found out he was flying over from Texas, and then you get to the back room and you see guys like Steve Sutcliffe, who's been doing this for decades, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh man, yeah, this is this is the big boys, this is the big leagues, and it's again, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly here. Um, I this show coming into the show was rough for me. I had it was just a very stressful couple of weeks leading up to that show. Just totally not bodybuilding related, right? So I have a job that really nobody understands, so I won't get into it here. But I'm basically a telecommunications consultant, and I just had a lot going on with work. Just a lot of deadlines, a lot of long days, long nights. Training wasn't great. My daughter ended up getting sick like the week of the show. It was just like a cold or whatever, but again, she's just a young baby, right? So I had that, and I'm taking my progress pics leading up to the show, and I guess all the stress is how that messes with your physique. So taking my pictures, sending them to Brad, I'm like, oh, I can't see my abs, I can't see my lines, my hamstrings aren't there, I don't like the way I look, and that kind of just compounds things. And then
Yeah.
the morning of the show, or the morning, I guess the Friday before the show, when I'm supposed to drive up to White Plains, take the pictures, and I'm like, I look like crap. I'm like, this sucks. But what am I gonna do? So yeah, I wasn't feeling the best physically or mentally going into it, but hey, it's my pro debut. What am I gonna do? I mean, obviously you want to minimize stress as much as possible, but that's pretty difficult, given just everything else I've got going in my life with work and the family and some other things. So, you do what you can. Ended up placing, I think, seventh out of ninth in that one, which kind of my goal going into every show is not to get last. I mean, there's not much you can do, but just personally as a competitor, you never want to finish last, and I guess I can cross that one off my list too when we get to that show. Um, but yeah, got some great feedback from the judges. I think it was pretty obvious that I was holding water, um, but again, it was my pro debut. Did what I could. Qualified for Worlds as a pro because all you had to do really was compete as a pro show. Um, so yeah, definitely some things I learned from there in terms of how to try and manage things outside of bodybuilding and then handle stress and whatnot. But yeah, you learn from you learn from the experience and you move on. Um,
And
so
I want to take a second too to like circle back because I don't think like you briefly touched on it. I know a little bit more in detail, and I don't know if you were traveling as much at that moment, but when Phil talks about like stress with work and work duties, it's not like he just goes sits at a desk. The man is literally flying across the world multiple times, like very frequently, different countries, and I know we're gonna touch on that here in a little bit because the one kind of gotcha. But it's not just like, oh man, I had a long day. It's I'm literally halfway across the world maybe a week before my show.
yeah, thanks for bringing that up, James, because that just completely slips my mind because it's just a part of everything I'm doing. But literally the day after that show, the Pro Universe, so that was on a Saturday. Um, Less than 24 hours after I stepped on stage. So what, you're off the stage at noon, 1 p.m., whatever. I had a 5 a.m. flight to Singapore the next day. So part of the stress that I was referring to leading up to the show was I needed to be in Singapore for work that next week. So it's like logistically, if I didn't have the show, I would have flown out Friday or Saturday to get over there in time and then do what I need to do. And um, a lot of what I had to deal with was, do I even do this show anymore? Like I already, this was supposed to be my pro debut. I already got registered and paid and was supposed to do it. So do I just not do it anymore? How do I get over to Singapore in time to make my meetings? I had to leave Sunday. I had to redo all my flights. I left that, like I said, that Sunday morning. Took me, I won't even get into the fact that that Sunday morning, I ended up forgetting my passport on the way to the airport and had to rearrange some of my flights because of that.
Mm.
But I forget what it was. I was traveling for like almost 40 hours or something, and got off the plane and literally went straight to a meeting. I mean, that was what I had to do. So yeah, I probably almost every month this year, I've had to travel somewhere for work, and it's not like that somewhere is an hour drive down the street or whatever. It's literally getting on a plane to Alaska or somewhere in Asia or somewhere in Europe. Just another part of the world to that's what I got to do. So yeah, when I say I was stressed, I mean yeah, that was part of it.
How did you manage training with all that?
So this is something that I was talking to you about, James. I mean,
Mhm.
like everyone wants things to be ideal, right? I would love it if
I believe the word is optimal.
optimal. There you go. Yes,
Hashtag
that's
optimal.
that's the
Yeah.
word everyone throws around. Um, yeah, everyone wants the optimal split or the optimal diet or the optimal training program. Um, and I wish I could do that because I love bodybuilding. I love competing in bodybuilding, and this has become a passion of mine, and I want to be uh, the optimal bodybuilder. I want to do the best that I personally can. But for me, my optimal is not is not what is considered optimal. So like for traveling, I already know that I'm not going to. There may be trips where I just can't get to the gym, just because of the way my meetings are set up. If I have to get ready for a meeting at 6 7 a.m. and I've got to entertain clients or go out with clients till whatever time at night. I mean, yeah, maybe I can get to the gym late at night, early in the morning, and then it's always like, well, do I sacrifice sleep for training? Um, I'm already jet lagged, right? If I'm traveling halfway across the world, so I try to plan ahead and find, okay, this is my schedule going into it. I think I have a pocket here, here, and here where I can go train for half an hour to an hour at my hotel gym. Um, and sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. Um, I just have to accept that going into this. And these trips are a week at most, so um, what I try to do is plan for that week to be a deload anyway. So if I have to extend the mesocycle or microcycle or mesocycle or cut it short, I'll do that. But I always try to plan these trips to be a deload. Um,
That
so
makes
that
sense.
that helps with the trading side of things. And my trading's kind of wonky to begin with, given my schedule is not very regular. So we can talk about that if you want. But it's really the diet that was the hardest part for me to get
Hmm.
used to when I started traveling, because on the plane and when you're at the airport, it's pretty easy to just bring some protein bars and bring some snacks and find something at the airport that's relatively easy to eat. But when you're in other countries and you don't have a kitchen in your hotel room, sometimes you're lucky to have a microwave. Finding prep friendly foods, even if you bring the whey protein and the bars and stuff. I mean, I'm still having lunch out with customers and clients and having dinners. And when I've been doing this, I've been working now in this job for the past 15 years. And when they're so used to, you know, you eating out at a restaurant and drinking and doing all this stuff, and now all of a sudden it's like, hey, why aren't you eating? Why aren't you drinking? I mean, it's a big change, not only for me, but makes for interesting conversation, I guess, with clients and whatnot. So that for me was the hardest part. And eventually it's just like, what, I don't care what these people say or think. I just got to do this. Yeah, if
Yep.
I'm gonna order plain salad with plain chicken breasts, then I'm just gonna do it. Tell them I'm competing in natural bodybuilding and see how they react, because it
See
was
where the
kind of a
conversation.
weird topic. Yeah, it was a weird thing for me to try to discuss at first, because
Hmm.
when people hear bodybuilding, right? I know it's kind of a tangent, but when people hear bodybuilding, they think of Mr. Olympias and your typical bodybuilder, and I've gotten some interesting responses from people like, oh, it doesn't even look like you work out, or oh, okay, that's cool. Like, oh, what do you mean you're a bodybuilder? So I was always kind of hesitant to discuss it, but when I got that deep into prep, and then you got to prep rate and everything, it's just like you don't even care. It's like, this is
Yeah.
what I'm eating. I'm not drinking. I'm a natural bodybuilder. Just live with it.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
So
but we talked about too, like there's been moments where you've almost had to do some of those non-optimal things to close a deal, right? Because at the end of the day, bodybuilding is a passion, but it's a hobby, right? Like, and that's something
Exactly.
that we talked about for sure, is there are a larger majority of people that bodybuilding is not their career, right? Like Leroy, myself, maybe a little bit more so some other people that are like full-time coaches that we can like envelop fitness into every aspect. But for most people, it's the side thing. It's not the main thing.
Yeah, and I did want to get into that, and I know I'm kind of just halfway through my season here.
Hmm.
But yeah, to me that's an interesting thing, because I I do truly want to be the best bodybuilder I can be, and I'm a competitive guy, right? I mean, a lot of people get into this because they have a competitive background or they grew up playing sports or whatever, and you always want to be the best or be as good as you can. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to me because yeah, you look at, and I hope I'm not offending anyone, or definitely that's not what I'm meaning to do here. But if your life is, or maybe I'll put it the other way, you look at the top natural bodybuilders or top bodybuilders in any, in the world. Obviously the genetically gifted will always rise to the top, but is everyone always genetically gifted, or are they just they all also happen to be in like the perfect situation to enable them to be the best bodybuilder they can, which then enables them to be one of the elite bodybuilders. Like, um, you know, uh, I love my life. I'm not saying I would change anything, but I'm also curious to know what kind of a bodybuilder I could be if, you know, everything I did was bodybuilding. Like, I lived, and I do right now try to live, sleep, eat, breathe bodybuilding as much as I can. But it is. I am a bodybuilder, but it's not my life.
Yep.
I do have
Yep.
other things going on, and I would love to devote more time to bodybuilding if I could, but I just can't. So yeah, I just think it's an interesting to think about. There's nothing I can do about it, but some people are just in these ideal situations that they don't have a baby at home and a pregnant wife and a job where they're traveling all over the world, and yes, they can have the optimal split and eat their protein every X hours and kind of do all the right things and check off the right boxes. And um, yeah, again, I'm not trying to knock anyone. I just think it's an interesting, it's an interesting point, I guess.
There'd be some that would say you just need to grind harder, Phil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you only worked harder, your problems would
Exactly.
go away.
I've been told.
How's the saying go? Nothing that more money and a positive attitude can't fix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for real.
So if you guys want to throw that my way, then sure.
Yeah.
I got
Once we
positive
find it.
attitude for you all day.
And then that does go a long way because definitely had to stay positive throughout this prep. Given
I believe the word is delusional. That's the world I live in.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's move on from Pro Universe. So you get the pro debut under your belt. That takes us to Mr. A, or no?
That does, yeah. So went to Singapore, got back a few days before Mr. A, and had to turn that around pretty quickly. But it's weird. I guess once once the stress of everything kind of went away. I mean, even though I traveled halfway across the world, my physique, I was just started looking better. I was right back on my diet after the Pro Universe, and I guess there was no pressure with the Mr. A. I knew I wasn't going to win. Again, being realistic. You looked at when Mishak won the year before and Corey won the year before that, and again, you never know who's going to show up to these things. So for me, it was like, all right, let me just use this to turn things around from the Pro Universe. Work on my peak, get my posing right. I mean, a big thing for me throughout this entire prep, once I kind of got into the shape I was in, right, I wasn't going to gain any more muscle. It was pretty tough for me to get any leaner than I already was. So it was like, let me just tweak my posing and work on my peak. Those are the two things I can control. Let me do it as best I can. And unfortunately, I think, and I think Brad will admit to this, I probably came in a little bit flat for every show. Came in a little fuller each time, but always like we definitely could have. I could have eaten more, especially for the Mr. America. As you guys know, it was a long,
That's a big
day.
day.
And I didn't know when I was going to be on. I had an idea, so I planned my meals around that. But I was on later than I expected, and I just didn't get as much food in me as I probably should have. So it was a little bit flat, but overall, like I think I've said, I mean that was probably my best look of the year, unfortunately, I guess. But yeah, I mean I had tons of fun at that show. Um, Once these lineups this year, once I turned pro, were just ridiculous. I mean, I competed next to Marshall Johnson and Kent Beerley, and just seeing Marshall Johnson there
That was cool.
Yeah, check that off the bucket list. I didn't think that was something that was ever going to happen. So yeah, I was in I guess you can call it the lightweight class, right? There were two bodybuilding classes at the Mr. A. and what did I get? Fifth out of however many there were, 7 or 8 in that class. And so yeah, I mean, again, I never go into these shows like saying, oh, I need to get first or whatever. I mean, obviously, I want to finish as well as I can, but once I got to this stage of this season, it was like just bring my best, work on what I can, and then obviously the chips will fall where they may. And the fact that I think some of the judges had me even like fourth, I think I heard. That to me is huge, given again the guys I was up against. So I was very happy with the Mr. A. Yeah, again, my only gripe there was how long of a day it was. I think you guys have talked about that. I mean, it's certainly long for you three. But
Oh,
other
yeah.
than that, it was, it was
I
still
can
a
only
great
talk
show.
so much.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah. But I put everything into that because I knew that the next show, because I had already qualified for Worlds, I didn't have to go and do I didn't have to do any more shows, because I still had planned, if I hadn't qualified for Worlds up to that point, to do a couple more IMBF shows just in case. So after the Mr. A, I actually had a nice long break until Worlds, because the Mr. A was like the first weekend in October, and
Yep.
Worlds wasn't until mid-November. So I thought I had what was a nice long break. But
on the contrary.
Yes.
All right,
so
guys,
now
we'll see you in the next episode.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how long it's been. Hopefully, I haven't been flying around for too long.
Keep going.
I'm
Keep
just
going.
bugging. I'm just bugging. Okay, so
Yeah, they
this
didn't.
this is when things start to go a little south.
Yeah, so here's, I guess, the ugly portion of it, and I don't want to say physically too, but yeah, no, and it's funny because up until that point, I mean, besides that kind of one stressful show, one stressful time before the pro universe, like things for me weren't too bad. I mean, it was my second prep. I guess I knew what I was getting into. Still much shorter than the forever prep for the first prep was like 18 months long. So this was nowhere near that. Yeah, exactly. There were some diet breaks in there, but so I was telling Brad after the Mr. A, it's like, hey, I don't really feel like crap yet. I'm like, I think we can push this a little harder.
You should have kept your mouth shut.
Exactly.
That's
Right?
how the world works. Don't you know
That's-
that? I don't feel too
yeah.
bad. Oh, really?
Murphy's Law. Yeah, you get what you ask
We can
for,
fix
right?
that real quick.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I've got like a few more grams of fat I can shave off there. So yeah, I mean, I think we were planning to eat up into that last show, or at least introduce a bit more high days. I mean, I do have the refeeds, but I was like, no, man, let's dig. I mean, this is WNBF Worlds. I'm competing as a pro. This is this is it. This is what I've been working for, right? So if I think I can come in better, I'm gonna do everything I can to. That's just how I am. But yeah, that's you get what you asked for, right? So things were going pretty well. I mean, at that point in prep, I mean, I was anywhere between like 16 to 1800 calories on my low days, and then like 22-ish hundred calories on my refeeds. But we pushed it to 1400 calories for a good stretch of time, for like 10 to 14 days in a row, and then we'd have a couple of high days, and then we'd push it again. And then we would have, the plan was then to eat up into Worlds. But around it was the end of October, very first week in November. I again was traveling down to the Cayman Islands, and this didn't actually happen while I was down there. It happened a couple of days before I left. Like I didn't even know I was gonna make this trip, but I came down with all these. I started getting rashes on my arms and my legs and my body, so I went to get it checked out. And the doctor was like, I think it's this thing called scabies, which I kind of heard about, but didn't really know what it was. And so you Google it, and it's almost like bed bugs, to be honest, but but not bed bugs. They are parasites that I guess dig into your skin, and then basically they lay eggs and create more parasites, and they kind of eat away at you. It's pretty gross.
You want to get those last couple pounds off? Well,
yeah, that's a
there you
good
go.
one. Yeah, exactly. Hey, can you eat the fat only, please?
Yeah, that's right. I got some
Um,
spots in my hamstrings. If we could just
yeah, it was really the
these
glutes, right? I
plugs
really
here.
wanted those striated glutes.
Yeah.
I had a couple of lines, but I was like, "Look, make me look like this guy Dirk over here." Um, but yeah, I mean, who knows how I got it, right? I mean, they say the easiest way is to get it from someone else who has it. Um, but you can get it at the gym, apparently. You can get it airports, crowded places, wherever. Who knows? I wasn't gonna figure it out. Um, but they're like, here, just take these meds, and you should be fine in a week to 10 days or whatever. So did that, but things just started getting worse. Like even after I was taking the meds, I mean, at one point, the rashes, and I never posted this because it is kind of gross, but like I would say like almost 90% of my body was covered in rashes and hives. My arms were completely swollen, my legs were swollen. Um, like I had no definition anywhere, and this was literally, what was this, like November 7th or 8th, so just a couple of weeks before
2 weeks out.
Worlds. Yeah. So this is kind of where everything just kind of went to shit. Sorry for my language, but yeah, I had no idea what was going to happen. Didn't know if I was going to recover from this in time. Didn't know if I could go to Worlds, compete at Worlds. Even if I did, didn't know how I was going to look. I mean, this was probably pretty. This was the roughest time of my prep, and I mean, I, again, don't want to discredit anyone else, but just for things that I've gone through in my life and how
Yeah.
much I'd invested in this prep. I mean, it was a pretty low point for me, personally, just because this was something I was looking forward to all year, and I feel like it was just being taken away from me. And so yeah, um, it was mentally I wasn't in a good place. Physically, clearly I wasn't in a good place. Um, Brad helped a lot. I mean, every day he was just keeping me positive, even though after the fact I know he was probably shitting his pants as well. Like, oh crap, this I don't know if
Yeah.
this is gonna go well. But he at least he kept me positive. My wife, she was she's been a rock throughout this whole prep. I definitely couldn't have done this without her. But she was keeping me positive. I had basically thrown the towel in. I was like, there's just no way I can recover in time to compete at Worlds. And so it happens literally the week of Worlds, Monday, Tuesday. At least the rashes had gone away. But I was just left with all these marks on my body. I think I posted some of those pictures. There's just all these spots, and the doctor said that it's not a typical. Apparently, it's not a typical way the body reacts to scabies or heals from scabies. Um, because my immune system was so compromised from everything I've been doing, it just didn't know how to react, and it kind of just went crazy. It's just like, let's just do whatever we can to get rid of these parasites. And so it left me with all these dark marks, um, and then it was like, okay, well, I feel good enough to compete. What do I do about these marks? And um, that's when we made the decision to, all right, well, we don't know how the spray tan is going to react to the skin. We don't even know if it'll cover the marks. Let's go the dream tan route, which I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like I hear great things about this dream tan. I've never used it before. So I had to get an exemption and everything, which I don't know if everyone knows, but obviously it's pretty clear from the pictures that I didn't look the same as everyone else. But so yeah, I mean, um, felt physically okay to compete. Finally felt mentally okay to compete. I was like, you know what? I've made it this far. I'm I've physically recovered. Let's just go out there and do this thing and then see what happens. So yeah, that brings us to Worlds. There's probably some things I missed there with everything that went on, but it's all kind of a blur now. But yeah, I guess I have nothing really bad to say about Worlds itself. I mean, the fact that I had the opportunity to compete there as a pro, I mean, that's a dream, right? I mean, it's not something everyone gets to do, right? I mean, that's something I may never get to do again, depending on what happens, right? So I was like, I'm not gonna let this opportunity pass. Um, it was a bit different for me because I had the dream tan and I didn't get to, I didn't get to pump up with everyone else. I wasn't kind of in the backstage. I had to be in this little secluded area, so I didn't get Dream Tan everywhere. But yeah, went out there and just, I think everyone's seen the footage from Worlds by now, and I was in that stacked lightweight class of 16 people, and yeah, I guess this is something I've accepted, but I still struggle with, right? I mean, I know I didn't look my best, because I know I could have looked better. I know that I didn't look like everyone else because I had this weird tan, which, who knows who knows if or, how that could play into the judges, in terms of comparing me to other people or whatnot. I'm not going to make excuses. Clearly, someone has to place last, and then yes, that was me. And so, you could say I'm the worst lightweight bodybuilder this year. I'm the 16th best bodybuilder this year. There's a lot of ways to look at it, but right after I found out that I had placed 16th, I mean, it sucked. I was personally devastated, right? I mean, I for a while I felt really good that I was able to just make it to the stage and compete there, and then like in the flip of a switch, like all of a sudden it was a complete 180. I felt like crap. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have competed there. Um, or maybe I'm not that great of a competitor, and I don't even belong up with the pros. I mean, there was all these things that kind of went through my head, and
Yeah.
as a competitor and as an athlete, and so it was a lot to process. But it's been over. It's been like a month now since then, and I'll take from it what I can. It's definitely motivation, right? I mean, I I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there were there were the thoughts of like, maybe I don't even want to compete in bodybuilding anymore. Maybe I don't do this. But I don't think that was ever real. I mean, again, I love bodybuilding. I love training. I love competing. But this really, because of all that, I mean, I've got a lot to learn from this season, the good, the bad. Um, I know where to push myself for next time. I know how long to go. Um, but I don't think I want to compete again until I know that I am definitely going to make some serious noise next time I compete. I mean, that's this. Not that I didn't have a fire lit under me already, but I'm determined to get back to that stage and just completely obliterate the physique that I brought to the stage this year. And it's my goal this year was to just compete at Worlds as an amateur. Well, my goal next time, depending on how things shake out with keeping my pro status or whatever. I mean, I want to place well at Worlds, right? I'm saying it now in front of whoever's watching this. Like that
In
is
front of the
something
millions of Natty News
exactly.
podcast
Yeah.
viewers.
Right? I know every one of your followers is going to be watching this, and I know
You
all
think The
15
Rock
other
had a million
competitors.
fans? We got
Exactly.
millions.
The other 15 competitors, Dirk, hey, watch out. But no, that's something I really want to do. And hey, maybe I place last again, and so be it, whatever. But at least that's, like we said, I think
Yeah.
it's a realistic goal, and it's definitely what I'm striving for next time.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be a tough pill to swallow with so many factors out of your control, like influencing the look you're bringing to the stage, right? Like the rashes and the tan and this and that. Like you're playing the hand you're dealt with, which massive respect to you, man, because I don't know how many people would have stuck that out. Like there was moments during my prep that pale in comparison to what you were going through, that I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this. And you were like trudging through the trenches, right? Which is just speaks to how much you care about it and the passion you do have, right? Like, you've said numerous times through this podcast that you are truly passionate about bodybuilding. And, that is clear to anybody listening that, you you did everything you possibly could to be your best and bring your best, and circumstances out of your control were playing a factor. And obviously that's probably like a 1 in a million chance that would happen. Unfortunately you were that one, but I think you can probably like rest your head easy every night leading to your next season, that like odds are in my favor that if I just do everything the same the last 3 years or however long it's been and do that all again and just become a better bodybuilder and not get scabies.
Exactly.
That like
Yeah.
you'll blow this physique out of the water, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I think too, just having that like that mindset of like I want to be really good. I want to be better. I want and having that open-ended timeline of like, you know what? I don't want to just show up, and this is with clients is like, okay, if you truly want to be a better athlete, like you got to go away for a bit, man. Like you got to go and just like immerse yourself in the off season. I know it's not exciting. I know it's the buzz of prep, and though, you mentioned earlier, you didn't come up with social media and that kind of stuff, but like so many people just thrive off that prep buzz that they get from documenting and posting and sharing, and it's hard to let that go. But if you truly want to excel as an athlete, and for you, you want to go back to worlds, like arguably the biggest stage in the sport, like that's time, right? That's just going in
Yeah.
and putting your head down for the next 2, 3, 4, whatever many years. But that's the game we're playing.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I think when you're in, unless you're one of the select few, I mean, you're kind of in this for the long game, right? I mean, if you're really going to excel at it, and like you said, I mean, I've been looking forward to an off season for the past however many months now. I mean, yeah, it was a lot tougher the first. I think it's the toughest the first time. I mean, especially if it's the first time you get into contest shape, right? I mean, you really love the physique and the way you look, and I had a hard time my first prep coming out of that. But
Right.
this time I was like, I don't even care about
Yeah,
that.
like, give me the hell out of here.
I mean, yes, just I'm already. I mean, I'm taking a slightly different approach this off season. I mean, I got up to like 220 pounds that last off season. Probably not going
Ooh-wee.
to get that high. Yeah, I mean, strength was up there too. Was happy about that, but uh, I think there's a lot of a lot of different views about off season and how heavy you need to get, right? But no, I was. I mean, I've been looking forward to eating again, obviously, and just packing on, the muscle or improving, whatever it is, but just doing
Yeah.
what I need to do in the next few years to just come back better that next time, right? I mean, if it takes a few years, it takes a few years. I mean, I
Yeah.
do have another baby on the way next year, so we'll see how that goes. But right, Leroy, you know about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
buddy.
I mean, I'm committed to this off season, right? And
Yeah.
still got everything else in my life going on, so still got to work around that. But that's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do here. So
Yeah. No, it's amazing, man.
I'm noticing a trend with your preps, Phil. The first one, the forever prep, right? 18 months. Did okay, right? Good first prep. The second one, 9 months? Did better. So we just got to continue to shorten your preps. That's the lesson to learn from all of this, right? You've taken it way too far each time. So if we shorten this up and like have that again, 4.5 month prep, you're gonna just crush it. You're just gonna hit it right on the dot there.
oh yeah, yeah. I've been saying this one was probably a good 6 to 8 weeks too long. I mean, 6 7 months is probably ideal for me. I mean, we'll see where I start prep next time. I mean, if I started prep this year at like 185 and got down to the lowest was 150.8 or something, and I think I weighed in for Worlds like 151 at 3.7% body fat apparently, according to the test that I did that day. Um, but uh, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely learned a lot from this. Know how far to push it, and yeah, I think the next prep will we'll try to start not as high above what I think my stage weight will be. Is probably still the low 150s, but we'll
Yep.
see.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah. Let's have hashtag normal amount of time for prep next time.
Yeah.
Hashtag normal. Hashtag your everyday prep. That's what
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
do.
I just want to, yeah. Let's just have a normal prep with nothing fun or exciting to talk about except for how well I did at Worlds.
Perfect.
That
Perfect.
sounds nice.
That's
Yep.
awesome, man. All right, brother. I just want you to close this out with some wise words for maybe someone that's going through it on prep, or they're getting ready to prep. Maybe they're gonna watch this during prep and they're dealing with some shit. What do you want to tell that athlete?
Yeah, I mean, just staying positive. Actually, I think that's very underrated. It's easy to say, And then it's like, oh yeah, just stay positive. I know how tough that can be.
You're
But
like,
it
shut
actually,
up, man.
yeah, it's like, no, I have a bunch of rashes. Just shut up. I can't
Yeah,
be positive.
piss off.
But that helps a lot. I mean, or having someone else stay positive for you, right? I think that goes a long way because that does start seeping into what you do, and just being flexible. I think that's, unless you just can stick to this regimented regime all the time. I mean, I personally know how flexible you need to be to make things work. I don't train every the same 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, I might train 3 days this week, 4 days next week, 2 days the week after. I mean, um, you know, everyone, like you said, loves the idea of being optimal, but it's not optimal if you can't stick to it, or whatever the saying is, right? Find whatever works for you, and just stay positive, and roll with the punches, and then just see it through, and then hey, you'll be surprised at what can happen, right?
Beauty. And remember, people, if you can't be positive, just be delusional.
Yes, that's a good plan B.
And if you're going to be a delusional, pick a delusion that's good for you.
There you go. Just assume you're gonna get your pro card and win every show. That usually
That's
works out
right.
well.
That's right. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Yep.
That's a Seinfeld
There's our
joke.
tagline. There's our
That's right.
tagline for the whole video.
There we go. Awesome, man. Well, if people want to follow along with your foreseeable future in the off season, where do they find you?
Yeah, been getting a lot of flack for this recently, but I feel like I can't change it. I mean, my Instagram is really the only place you can find me. Is Phil Lifts for Pizza. Bunch of underscores in there. I know I haven't actually lifted for pizza recently. It was definitely tough to fit that into a 1,400 calorie diet, but there certainly will be more of that in this off season. But
Good.
yes, Phil Lifts for Pizza, and yeah,
Awesome.
everything's on there.
There we go. There we go. All right, people. Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode with Phil, let us know if you want to see him on again in the off season at some point. Then we'll make it happen. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next one.